This is a special episode of the Creative Genesis podcast. Check it out. You are listening to the Creative Genesis podcast by Winfluence Media, the show that speaks to professionals in the creative field and entrepreneurs, asking them how they got started so that you too can begin your own journey. If you're looking to step up your journey as a creative or entrepreneur, then you are in the right place. So stay tuned and follow the Creative Genesis podcast, the stepping stone to your success.
They say that winners never quit. But on the other hand, a quitter will never win. Once you give up, then it's like someone's chopped off your legs. You will never be able to go back. And that becomes the mental ineptitude I was talking about here. But that's then screwed you up mentally that I can't do it. I can't do it.
Hello and welcome. You are tuned into the Creative Genesis podcast by your host, Ryan Lobo. Today I speak with a brilliant motivational speaker, entrepreneur, and the author of the book Rubies in My Ears, Mr. Sanjiv Lall. He speaks on the subject, the guts of motivation. And you have to watch this episode if you want to truly understand what it takes to motivate yourself beyond the ordinary. This episode has the power to change the way you think about motivation and possibly change your life. Content is everything these days, and with the rise of real content, businesses now more than ever need to start employing high converting content for their businesses. Listen to this quote: without marketing, there will be no sales, and without sales, there will be no money. Without money, there will be no business. Marketing is the name of the game. Are you a business based in Goa? Well, if you are, then we are the marketing partner for all of your requirements. From shooting real content to setting up your very own podcast to shooting and editing professional face-to-camera content for your business, we have the most professional setup for your video production requirements. If you need content on a monthly basis, we are the agency for you. Contact us at videoproductiongoa@gmail.com or WhatsApp us on 7083 401 793 to get to know us better. You can even watch our presentation video on winfluencemedia.in. That's winfluencemedia.in. Winfluence Media, media that wins. So let's get back to the show. We have with us Mr. Sanjiv Lall, and he has some mind-blowing insights on what motivation truly is. So let's dive right into it. So welcome to a special episode of the Creative Genesis podcast. We're here with Mr. Sanjiv T. Lall. He has traveled to various countries. He's an entrepreneur. He has multiple businesses. He has written a book. I'm going to tell you about that book a little later. And today he's going to talk to us on the subject of the guts of motivation. He's a motivational speaker. He speaks at many colleges and many places. So thank you so much, sir, for accepting this invitation to come on the Creative Genesis podcast. We've known each other for about 4 years, and it's great that you're on this podcast finally.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for having me here. It's great. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so when I asked you what would you like to speak about, I really loved what you said. You said many people have aspirations. They want to achieve things. They want to get things done. They have the motivation in the beginning, but then slowly they lose steam and they're not able to accomplish what they want to do. There are so many people who start out with great hopes and dreams, but really don't end up doing what they want to do. And there are so many people who also, there are very few people who truly succeed. The majority of them kind of slow down and don't hit the mark. So I'd love to know what you have to say about that.
Well, I'll tell you a little story. It was in the year 1977. I just finished my BA in political science in St. Xavier's, Calcutta. I had a very good college life. I was having a whale of a good time. And political science, what I did is a no-brainer.
Okay.
And I did it only because it was the easiest subject to study.
All right.
Political science. And towards the last year of my college, my father's friend, who was also my guardian in school,
Right.
in college rather, would tell me that, what are you doing, wasting your time in India? You're not going to get anything out of it. You might get a job at 1,000 rupees or 1,500 rupees a month. What the hell are you going to do with it? So I said, well, what should I do? So he said, well, I think you should go abroad.
Okay.
And you go abroad and make a life for yourself. So I was about, I was just 21. So I said, where should I go? He says, well, I would suggest you go to Iran. So I said, Iran? So he said, yeah, it's a lot of beautiful women and a lot of money and you love it.
Uh-huh.
So I said, but Iran is a desert. He says, yeah, it is. So I said, what am I going to do there? He says, well, I export bicycles to Iran.
Okay.
And I'll talk to my business partner there who imports bicycles. He's a Sardar gentleman. And I've been selling him, I'm doing business with him for many, many years. Very nice guy. So you go there. So I said, all right. 3 drinks later, I'd made up my mind that I'm going to go to Iran. And I got a call from Mr. Bose, who's my guardian, about 10 days later. And he says, listen, I've spoken to this guy. Why don't you come over for a drink? So I went to his house for a drink. And he said, yeah, he's willing to take you on. So I said, are you sure? He said, yeah. Now, 77.
Iran was a very different country.
Yeah, I didn't have much
today.
money. I went to my mother. I told her that, listen, I'm going to Iran. So she thought I was kidding her. So I said, no, I'm really going. I need 8,000 rupees from you because I need to buy a ticket. So she gave me 8,000 rupees. I somehow managed to get a visit visa for Iran because there's nothing known as a visit visa for Iran.
Right.
Because no one goes there for a visit, at least in those years. And I arrived in Iran. And he said, I'm going to Tehran. You come with me on the same flight. I'll get you on the job. You'll stay with those people. I said, fine. I went with $300 in my pocket, I think it was. And we arrived in Tehran. The gentleman was there to meet me. And I thought I'm going to be taken to his house.
Right.
But instead of being taken to his house, he takes me to a hotel. And he said, you're going to stay here that night. So I said, okay. I was kind of surprised because I was under the impression that I'm going to stay with them. And I stayed in the hotel for about 3 nights, costing about $40 or $50 a day. And I only had $300. Or was it 400? I can't remember. And I said, what am I going to do? And I was totally taken aback.
Okay.
And I said, this is not good for me. I made a mistake. I need to go back. And Mr. Bose said, I'm going back on Friday. And if you don't like it, you come back with me. So I made a booking to go back to Delhi.
Yep.
The last day of my trip, we were having lunch at the Maharaja Hotel. There's always a Maharaja Hotel in any, serving Indian food in any capital. So we are having lunch at the Maharaja Hotel, and the Sardar gentleman who was supposed to be my host told me that Maharaja Patiala sitting right there. So that got my ears up. I said, really? Where is he? He said, he's sitting there.
Now, the Maharaja of Patiala.
Patiala.
Wow. Okay.
So I said I need to go and talk to him, and I got up. I don't know this guy. I went up to him and said, excuse me, my name is Sanjiv. Can I have a word with you? Now he was having a business meeting with another Sardar gentleman and another Indian gentleman. So he said yes. So I said, I repeated, my name is Sanjiv, and you know my family. You know my mother's younger brother. He's a very good friend of your brother.
Oh, okay.
And I said, my father was in the army, and you were in the army. I think you even knew him because he was much senior to you.
Okay.
So he said, yes, give me what is his father's name. So I mentioned it. I mentioned my mother's brother. And he said, yes, of course. He said, pull up a chair. So I sat down there, and he said, what are you doing here? I said, that's exactly what I've come to you about. I've come here for a job.
Okay.
He said, you come here for a job? Hey, do you have a job? I said, no. He said, why did you come? Looking for a job? So he said, that's a good one. So he turns around to the other Sardar gentleman, and he says, this is someone I've known for many, many years. Can you help him find a job? So the other Sardar gentleman says, yes, I can help him. Come and meet me in my office in 2 days. Now I had a ticket to go back to Delhi at 6:30 in the evening.
Yep.
Now I had the choice of either sticking it through or returning that evening. And His Highness Maharaja Patiala said, come and have a drink with me this evening. at 7 p.m. at the Hilton. So I said, now either I'm going to be having a drink at the Hilton or I'm going to be on the plane.
Yeah.
So he said, well, will you come to me this evening? I said, yes, I will. So I did not go to
The airport.
Did
you get your money back or?
Well, that I don't know. No, I didn't get my money back because I had a return ticket, and the return ticket was only valid for 8 months or 6 months or what. So that exhausted. But what I'm trying to say is that turned out to be the best decision. And why did it become a best decision?
Yeah.
Because then I moved into a working.
So you had dinner with him?
I had dinner with him. First time in my life that I had wine, red wine in that glass, and I was wondering what the hell is all this. And he was in Iran.
Okay.
On contract, had been called by the Shah of Iran to make the deserts of Iran into green areas.
Wow. Okay.
So he says, well, my project is not off the ground, but once it gets off the ground, maybe you can come and work for me. I said, when will that take? He said, that might take a year.
Yep.
So you need something to do for that year. So go and meet that other gentleman and he'll fix you up, hopefully. But what I'm trying to say is that decision not to go could have either worked for me or it may have kicked me in the backside. Life was very tough. Very, very tough. I couldn't speak the language. I had no qualification to actually work because all I had was Pol Science, and Pol Science was absolutely zero in Iran. You had to be an engineer, or you had to be a doctor, or you had to have some professional qualification like a welder or something like that, or a plumber. I had none. Within one day, I realized that I was totally unqualified to do anything. I was total misfit. I was unqualified. The only thing that I had was the ability to speak English and think on my feet. So I thought. So I stuck it out for about 2-3 months. Didn't have a job. It was very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. Having 1 million a day. And I was wondering, I said,
really?
What am I doing here? I had a life back in India. And here I am. And the reason that I never returned to India was because if I came back with the tail between my legs, everyone would say, look, you've come back now. Who the hell told you to go? You know it all.
Right.
3 months later, I landed a job.
3 months it took?
3 months. In an American containerized shipping company called Sealand. Sealand at that time was the world's largest containerized shipping company in the world.
Yeah, I read this in your book.
Yeah. So I ended up working for Sealand. And guess what? Because I did not have the right qualifications, I could not get a work permit.
Okay.
But they kept me. They kept me for 1 month on trial because I told them that I'll try and get the work permit on my own because I've been assured by these people that if I get a job, they'll get me the work permit. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the work permit, and after 1 month, I went back to my boss and he said, look, you're doing a good job. So as long as you don't tell anyone that you're working without a work permit, we'll keep you on a permanent basis, but without a work permit. So I said, okay, so life became very good and things began to work out. But what I'm trying to say is the decision to stick it through worked for me. Had it not worked, I would have been finished. Mentally, I would have been a wreck. I got so much confidence there. That little thing gave me a lot of confidence. And about a year later, the insurgency started in Iran, the civil revolution.
Yep.
Khomeini came back from France and the Shah was kicked out. And there was heavy insurgency and I was told to leave. So they gave me 48 hours to leave the country. So some things that you do impact you very, very hard. And that impacted me. I came out of that a winner. I mean, I had enough money to travel all over Europe.
Oh, yeah?
And
because of this job?
Because of the job. I mean, I was earning in Iranian rials, but I had, when I left the country, I took with me Deutschmarks, French francs, Swiss francs, British pounds, US dollars. So I was having a really good time. Finally wound up in Spain, and I did a 1 month stint there because the country manager of Spain was formerly the country manager of Iran. So he told me that if you're ever in Spain and looking for a job, come and meet me. So that worked for me. Many people who duck out, it impacts them negatively, which does not allow them to function. You might get into alcohol, you might get into drugs. The ability to function is very prohibitive in your psyche. Fortunately, it worked the other way for me. Then I came back to India, and
So if I may summarize your experience there, you made a very difficult decision whether you should go back to India or go and meet the Patia.
precisely.
And taking that very step, not knowing whether you would succeed or not even having enough money, it was a very scary situation. It could be.
It was very scary. I mean, I was staying in a working men's hostel room of 6 boys, and I chose the upper bunk. It was like a railway bunk system.
Yeah.
There were 2 beds like this and 4 beds on bunks. So I chose the top bunk because no one sits on the top bunk. At least I thought that my bed will be clean and only I will be sitting there or sleeping there. But it was very difficult. As I said, I didn't have money. I was having 1 meal a day for 3 months. It was pretty ghastly.
Yeah. And I think your experience that, okay, life is tough, and if you make decisions, life is going to be difficult, but you can overcome it.
Yeah. Because
I think that's what
I overcame it, and it gave me a huge boost of confidence.
Right.
And that allowed me to think that I can do anything as long as I set my mind to it. So this business of setting your mind to it is a mental psyche.
Right.
I mean, there are lots of people who have the engineering degrees, they have the qualifications, but they're not able to function because there is something else which is pulling them back here. Maybe a bad experience or whatever. The ability of the unknown. You're frightened that if I go there, what's going to happen to me? You actually don't know what's going to happen. So you're worried about the unknown. And that sometimes pulls you back. More often than not, it pulls you back.
Okay. All right. And so after that, what did you do?
After that, I came back to India, and for the first year I worked for my cousin brother. He wanted to set up a factory producing dictating machines. He was working, and he said he didn't want to quit his job till that company was set up. So I was at a loose end. So I did that for a year, got him up to production level, and then I quit. And then I went and joined my mama, my mother's brother, who was in partnership with the Maharaja of Jaipur.
Okay.
And they were into selling commodities. And since I had the shipping experience, it was a very glamorous job working with these guys. And I did that for about 3-4 years.
So let's go back to your history. Where were you born? I believe your mom or your father was from the royal family.
My mother was, but my father was an army officer.
Okay.
And he had a lot of known family stations. So I saw very little of him. And when I was about 10 years old, the Indian-Pakistan war took place in 1965, in which he was grievously injured and passed away the following year. And my mother was from the Punjab, though her own mother, my maternal grandmother was Bengali. My mother was Punjabi. So there was a mix. And thereafter I was shunted off to boarding school.
Okay.
Lawrence School, Sana. So I was in boarding school for about 6 years.
Where is this school?
Lawrence School, Sana, up in Kasoli in Shimla Hills.
All right.
It's the oldest co-ed.
I think it's a army school.
It was an army school, started by the British Army.
Right.
1847. It's the oldest co-ed public school, I think, perhaps in the world.
I think Veer Das, the comedian, also studied there.
Maybe.
Yeah, because we were shooting him and he mentioned Sana.
Yeah, there are lots of people up there. So from there, I came down to Calcutta because my mother had remarried and she was staying in Ranchi. That's how I wound up in Calcutta. And that's how I went to St. Xavier's. So came back to India in the early 80s, did these jobs that I mentioned.
Yep.
And then again left.
Yeah.
And that's when I did that job that you were talking about in Paris.
Ah, okay. Yeah. So from India, then you went to Paris or no?
No, from India I went to Singapore because my sister and brother-in-law were living in Singapore. So I went to Singapore for a holiday. And I was wondering what to do. I was in between jobs.
Right.
And so I was in Singapore on holiday, and but 10 days prior to that, I had been told that that Maharaja of Jaipur was having a poolside dinner for a billionaire from Saudi Arabia.
Okay.
His secretary told me that, Sanjiv, I'm just telling you this information. Don't tell anyone that I told you. I said, all right. So I said, who's this guy? He says, I don't know. I mean, those days there was no Google. A name came to me and I did not know anything.
Yeah.
So I had a friend of mine working in Citibank in Saudi. And so I called him, or sent him I called him and I said, listen, do you know this guy? He says, listen, I'm in Saudi Arabia. I've heard of this guy, but I think he banks with the bank. Give me about 10 days, I'll find out. So 10 days later, he tells me, yeah, this guy is big shit. He's the world's biggest dealer in cement.
Okay.
And so he asked me, why do you want to know? I said, he's coming apparently to India to meet His Highness Jaipur. And I thought I'll go and meet him and introduce myself and worm in and get a job.
Yeah.
So he says, only you can do that. I said, well, no harm done.
Yeah. So you were already embedded in high circles, I think, by then.
Yeah, I mean, fair amount, I guess. And so I knew His Highness Jaipur's younger brother.
Okay.
He's a great guy. We used to sit and drink together a lot.
You learned a particular lesson from him, which I read in the book, about drinking.
Yeah. So I rang him up and I said, listen, apparently next week this guy is coming from Saudi Arabia. He said, I don't know. I've never heard of this guy. And apparently there's a dinner and next to the pool. And have you been invited? He said, no, I've not been invited. But why don't you come along, stay with me? And if there's a dinner, I'll definitely be invited. And you come with me as my house guest.
Oh, lovely.
So I said, all right. So I put on my suit and arrived in Jaipur. And then stayed with him. And the dinner was that evening.
Okay.
So I said, are you invited? He says, of course I'm invited. Come with me. So we arrived. We arrived about 20 minutes late or half an hour late. And when we entered the lawn, there was a long line of people standing in a single file waiting to meet this guy.
Okay.
I said, damn it. I mean, I thought I'm going to be the only guy now there, but I'm 25 people at the back.
Right.
And he was there along with his third wife. She was a French lady.
Okay.
Very pretty woman. Now we were standing in a single file waiting to meet him. Now you're going to meet someone, myself, Sanjiv or whatever. Who the hell knows? He will not remember who I am.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're meeting this guy. He's meeting so many people. First time to India. He's not familiar with Indian names.
Right.
So I went there, shook his hand and gave my name. Obviously, it just was water over duck's back. I shook hands with his wife. Water over duck's back. So, and in 5 seconds, what am I going to do? Employ me? Give me a job?
No way.
So no way. So I said, this is a bad exercise. I went and I said, since I'm here, I might as well have a few drinks, have some nice dinner, and the next day go back to Delhi. Next day I went back to Delhi and I said, this is a bloody waste of time. 10 days later, I'm in Singapore.
Okay. This is with your sister Kumkum.
With my sister. Now, telephone directories. I had this company's name in Riyadh. So I rang up the company, spoke to his secretary, and I said that my name is Sanjiv Lall, and I met Dr. Gaith Faron. His name was Gaith Faron.
Okay.
Lebanese guy in Jaipur, along with Maharaja Jaipur.
So wait, you called his secretary in France?
In Riyadh.
In Riyadh. Okay. From Singapore.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now that I had told his secretary that I had met her boss, along with His Highness the Maharaja of Jaipur in Jaipur, and she assumed as a guest.
Right.
So I've established my credentials. I can't be a nincompoop doing that.
Yeah.
So she said, yes, and how can I help you? I said, well, I need to talk to Dr. Gaith Faron. So she said, he's not here. All right, where is he? He's in New York.
Okay.
And so I said, where is he staying in New York? So she said, he's staying in the Pierre Hotel. Pierre Hotel was one of the better hotels in New York City. So I said, can you give me his room number? So she said, sure. So she gave me the room number. And I said, thank you very much. And she said, I'll also tell him that you had called.
Okay.
So I said, great. So I called up the Pierre Hotel. Singapore, I think, was about 14 or 15 hours ahead
Right.
of New York City.
Yeah.
Asked for the room number, and his wife picked up the phone. The same lady I'd met
Ah, okay.
in Jaipur 10 days earlier.
Right.
And I said, good morning. It was about maybe 9 a.m. in the morning in New York City time.
Yeah.
So she said, good morning. She said, my name is Sanjiv, and I don't know whether you recall, but I met you in Jaipur for 10 days ago. She said, really? I said, yeah, really. And I wanted to talk to Dr. Farhan. So she says, I met so many people, but I think I may remember you. So I said, ye bhi aise bol rahi hai. You think, how the hell will you remember me?
Yeah.
No, I think so. So I said, I want to talk to your husband. So she said, he's not here. He's gone on work. When will he be back? He'll be back exactly 8 hours from now, she tells me. Exactly.
Right.
And I'll ask him to call you. Can you give me your number?
Yep.
So I gave the landline number of my sister's home. I calculated 8 hours later would have meant 4 a.m. in Singapore time.
Okay.
And she said, don't worry, he'll call you exactly 8 hours from today, from now. I got up at 3:30, went to the telephone and stood by the telephone. Exactly at 4 a.m. he called.
Wow.
And he says, is that Sanjeev? I said, yes. He says, Dr. Geth Farhan speaking. I believe you called me. I said, yes. And I said that I met you in Jaipur. He said, yes, my wife has told me that you met me. And I'm not sure whether I can put a face to the name because there are so many people.
Right.
But maybe I think I know who you are. How can I help you? So I said, sir, I think I can make some money for you. So he said, that's interesting. And how do you propose to do that? Now this guy is a billionaire.
Right.
He was the world's largest dealer in cement, grey Portland cement. And I'm telling him that I can make some money for you. And I'm a zero, no one.
Right. Yeah.
So how can you make some money for me, Sanjeev? I said, well, sell cement. No. So he says, yeah, really? Where? I said, Bangladesh. He said, Bangladesh. I've never sold cement to Bangladesh. I said, well, they're big importers. They import from Indonesia, they import from Taiwan, they import from China. He said, really? I said, yeah, they do. Because they're a developing country. He said, that's interesting. So he tells me, okay. He says, by the way, do you ever travel to Europe? No, I had never. I traveled to Europe when I got kicked out of Iran in 1978.
Right.
Now this is 1984. So I said, well, as it happens, I'm planning to be in Europe next week.
Okay.
I had no plans to be in Europe next week. He says, are you going to be in Europe, around Europe? I said, yeah, next week. He says, look, I'll talk to my secretary and ask her to fix up a meeting with you. Since you happen to be around.
Yeah.
So why don't you ring up my secretary, Rosie, her name is, and she'll let you know what dates are going to be convenient for me. So I said, next week. He said, sure. So I rang up Rosie and I said that I spoke to Dr. Geth Farhan. She said, yes, I know you did. And can you meet him exactly 1 week from today in Paris? Now I am looking at myself and I said, now I have to get to Paris. So I flew Royal Jordanian Airlines via Amman. Amman is the capital of Jordan, from Singapore.
Right.
And from Amman I transited to Charles de Gaulle, Paris. And I was staying in a pension on the West Bank. And when I got there, I first went for a little recce around his office because I didn't want to be late.
Yeah.
That's my first time I was in Paris.
So why did you do the recce?
To make sure that I didn't be late for my meeting the next day. And he was in Champs-Élysées. Champs-Élysées is the street. And Plaza de la Concorde is where his office was. And Plaza de la Concorde on one side is also the Champs-Élysées Palace where the President of France lives. This guy was in a building next to the Crillon Hotel, which is a very famous hotel. And there's a road there. And on the adjacent side of the road was the Maxime's restaurant, which is again a world famous restaurant. So this guy was very much there And the office where I went to see the American War of Independence had been signed there in 1776 or something.
Wow.
So I was looking at this as a man, I don't know, maybe I've hit the jackpot, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I arrived there at 10 o'clock in the morning. I've never seen such tall doors. The door must have been about 25 feet tall.
Right.
It is a huge door. Oak, huge. And I arrive at this fabulous staircase. You enter this hall and this fabulous staircase, going very, very regal. I walk up the staircase. The lift is gold, everything is gold. And there's only one lady there. She said, yes. So I said, my name is Sanjiv. She said, of course, please sit down. Tea arrived again in gold rimmed, gold spoons. I mean, it was ornate.
Wow.
And she tells me, Dr. Franz ready to meet you.
And that was Rosie, I'm guessing.
No, Rosie was in Saudi. This was now in Paris.
Okay.
I don't know who they were. And so I'm having a coffee, and now should I finish my coffee or should I? Now Dr. Ferron is going to meet you. What do? Do you gulp it down? So she's looking at me a little nervous. She said, no, please carry your coffee with you.
Mm.
So I carried my coffee into his room. This guy's office was larger than, it was like the size of a small, basketball court here.
Wow.
So the office was a huge office here.
Mm.
Massive desk at the end. And he's sitting in the window, like a bay window. And he's got these worry beads. You know, these Arabs wear their...
prayer beads?
Yes, prayer beads.
Okay.
And he's just fiddling with them like that. Goatee. Slightly balding. Stout. Come and sit down. I went and sat down. So I said, I brought my cup of coffee. He says, of course. Please sit down. Very casual. So he says, I'm trying to think whether I remember you.
Mm.
So I said, well, I remember you. So when you say that, so he says, I think I remember you.
Okay.
So now we're beginning to have a bit
Break
of
the ice.
build a bit of a relationship. And he says, tell me, it's very interesting that you can, what about this Bangladesh?
Mm.
So I said, no, it's about Bangladesh, Now this guy, to give you a little brief, had went and bought 6 oil tankers, super tankers.
Okay.
Tankers which oil,
Uh-huh.
which would ply on the high seas. And he takes them to Sweden. And he converted the oil tankers into packing cement.
Okay.
So bulk cement would be pumped into the holds.
Right.
And then he had a packing factory which packed the cement into 50 kg bags. Or if someone wanted bulk cement, they would come out in a chute directly into your factory.
Mm. Yep.
So you take these big, huge ships to United States or any client who's wanting, say, 1 million tons.
Mm.
So when you're wanting 1 million tons of cement, you can't buy them in bags.
Mm.
You take them directly into the chute into your factory that where it is required.
Yep.
So the only problem was that we can't do that in Bangladesh because Bangladesh has rivers.
Mm.
And the draft of a river is never big enough to get these super tankers. So the super tanker will be anchored in the sea, and then they'll have these dinghies or dhows like you get in Dubai. And these dhows and dinghies will then transport the cement from the ship to the shore.
And these cement would be in bags now.
Cement would be in bag. That would be bagged on board the ship. And
okay.
And when it typically they would be on the curbside, but because the ships were so large, we couldn't have the ship sitting on the curbside. But so from the ship, mother ship would come onto dinghies, and dinghies would come down and bring it to the.
What's the curbside, if you don't mind me asking?
But quayside.
Okay.
Where the ship docks.
Mm.
But since the volume of the cement was so large, we needed something like 500, 600 trucks, flatbed trucks, to load the cement and take them away.
Mm.
So he calls his lady who was in charge of his international business. So he introduced me. He says, this is the gentleman I was telling you about.
Mm.
So she says, tell me the story. So I repeated the story. No, I did not know anything. I did not know a damn thing other than I'm making a story now as I go about Bangladesh, about cement, about these rivers and what little I knew.
Yeah.
So she says, sounds interesting. but how large is the river? Can our boats go there? So I said, well, on high tide, maybe we can get over the sandbank, and on a moonlight night.
Okay.
We can get.
So you're just making this
Well,
stuff.
because the moon attracts water, no? So the high moon, the depth of the water is higher.
Yeah,
So so she said, that's interesting. I said, yeah. And what's the draft? I said, well, the draft is about 7 meters. So she said, well, 7 meters is what we want. So I said, well, maybe on a full moon we might be able to get 7.5 meters and take the ship across. But then we need another moonlight night to pull it out again.
Yeah.
So you said, that may be a little dicey because we don't want to go there and get stuck.
Yeah.
Anyway, I ended up swinging a job for myself.
Wow.
And so she said, where are you going to be based? I said, Singapore. So there I was 30 years old, staying in Singapore, reporting to France to this blonde lady.
And how would you report in just phone calls or
In telex.
telex?
Those days, those
telegrams
telex.
or something.
The telex is like a fax, but it's a telex. It's like a long telegram.
Okay.
Like a long telegram. Then I'd give them feedback on what I'm doing. And I was traveling all over the Southeast Asia. I went to Bangladesh many times. I went to Pakistan. I went to Sri Lanka, Malaysia, East Malaysia, West Malaysia, Brunei. A wonderful job. Hong Kong.
Nice. And so when you got this commission to do that, it's like a commission, right? They say, okay, we are commissioning you to go and get us business in Bangladesh. I believe you're getting quite a fat salary.
At that time I started getting $1,500 a month. And I thought this is fantastic because I was converting into rupees. And Dr. Getharan said, listen, we'll do a trial for a few months, and if it works, if I can get some of my ships there, nothing like it. But what I'm trying to say is that I built up the confidence level to do that, to bullshit my way through.
Right.
I mean,
you definitely need that confidence.
I was talking to a cement magnate, and I'm advising him on how he should sell his own business, cement. So that takes confidence.
Of course. Yeah.
And
massive confidence.
And I must have passed the test because I got the job. And even the lady said, okay. So because they were weighing it up, they said, how much does it cost us? You come and give us a report on where we can sell cement in Southeast Asia, from Brunei to... But these are all very small markets.
Okay.
They were talking about 1 million tons. Where the hell? I mean, his ships were anchored off east coast of America, in Savannah and Georgia, where they were, displacing bulk cement into the silos which are on port. Each silo can take 1 million tons, so it's a huge operation. But the problem was that his ships were slack. He had 2 ships which were not being used. So he said, if I can position one of my ships in Southeast Asia, it will become very good. So if you can do these things, then you get the ability, you get the confidence that I can do anything.
Right.
Because education, no matter what education you have, whether it's an engineer or whether you're MBA, education to my mind only is a door opener. You can get an interview if you qualify from Harvard or from IIM or from IIT. But what happens once you do the job, once you get the job, is another matter. That's up to you.
Yep.
And that's where things don't happen but if you have a degree, you'll get a call for the interview. If you don't have a degree, then you may not get called for the interview.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
So how would you recommend somebody to develop that confidence, to develop that ability to speak to such high level people? Because it should be very intimidating to meet such a person.
It is.
I think
it is. I told you in my story that had I not had the good fortune of landing the job in Iran, I think I would have turned out to be a total wreck. And if you otherwise you got to develop it slowly. It's like building a home. It's brick by brick. You'll have to build your confidence.
Yeah.
It's like driving a car.
Yep.
You start slowly, and slowly you get better at it. So that would be one way, and the other way would be to confine yourself to things that you're good at.
Right.
For instance, you are good at recording, you're good at the camera, you're good at this is your forte.
Right.
And because you like your job, the job likes you. It's very simple. And because you love what you're doing, you can work at it for 20 hours a day and not get tired. Most people, unfortunately, at least in India, are working in jobs they do not like. So when you're working for a job that you don't like, say a government office, you come at 9:30 and you want to leave at 4:30 or be back by 5. So you're basically just marking time.
Right.
So if you end up in a position where you can do a job that totally takes your full interest, you'll obviously do a better job.
Yeah.
And so if you follow your passion, it's very easy to say follow your passion, but if you can, then that will give you the confidence levels to take it to higher levels.
Yeah. But from what I can see is that part of the reason you developed such a confidence is that you already embedded in high circles.
Well, that
Don't you think?
Yeah, I was. But had I, as I told you, that had I come back with my tail between my legs in Iran, I think all that would have got shattered.
Yeah.
So that is one. But having said that, you must take opportunities, because the opportunity is coming your way all the time. Only problem is that most people, 99.9% people, are not able to identify those opportunities.
Okay.
Also, you must work your ass off. Having got the job in Iran, I threw myself into it. Morning to evening, I was in it. And within 1 month, I got very friendly to the bosses and to the staff, and they started inviting me to the homes for a drink. They started saying that, Sanjiv, we travel a lot, so would you like to mind a home for us when we are away? So I started doing that. So I was not just working for the sake of the money. I was working to make my mark. And if the boss likes you, then he'll take you up for give you other jobs within the company. So that's what I did.
So now, not everyone may have the birth or the circumstances that you had to be able to approach, these high status men, right? So what would you recommend to somebody who is grown up pretty moderately, right? Because in the end, if they want to succeed, they have to associate themselves with people of stature, right? So what would you say to that?
Well, I would say to you, whatever work you're doing, you throw the kitchen sink into the work and make your mark. Get noticed. You must get noticed. And if you can work in an environment which you like, that's even better. Because then the productivity that you do will be much better. But you must get noticed. So don't do anything 9 to 5. You must be earlier than anyone else in the office, and you must leave later than anyone else. As a young person, you must work. You must work your ass off, as I said.
Yeah.
That's the only option you have of getting noticed.
So true.
And if you do that, you'll get picked up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying this, that if you're working in a cafe as a waiter, you must have the bonhomie, you must have the smile, you must do things to please your customer.
Right.
And if you please your customer, they will please you by giving you a better tip. If you don't please your customer, they will curse you and not give you a tip. They might even go and report you or your cussed behavior or attitude to the manager in the restaurant. And that's not going to help. But if you are pleasant to them, they might say that, look, I want to start a cafe in Goa. I want to start a cafe in wherever. And would you like to come with me? And you never know. You might go from Goa to Bombay. You might go from Bombay. You might land up in London as a waiter because you please someone.
Yes.
So even a menial job can get you places, but you must work at it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are, very, very cussed when they're working they just come dump the cup of tea or coffee onto your table, or they just dump the food because they're only there for 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours, and they're waiting to go home at 5 for whatever else they've got. And it's, you've been to restaurants, and there's nothing worse than being attended to by a sulking or sulky waiter or a waitress here, because that spoils your mood also.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's one way to handle that.
Right.
That if you end up with a waiter who's sulking,
Right.
and I do it all the time, that when I sit down there, they'll say, what would you like to eat or drink? And he's always sulking, or she. So I very often just take out a 100 rupee note and said that I'd like a coffee, and what is this? I said, this is for you. What do you mean this is for me? I said, it's your tip. But I haven't got the coffee. I said, no, it doesn't matter, keep it. So suddenly he smiles.
Yeah.
So he'll bring you a coffee within 5 seconds, and he'll come out smiling. And he's only smiling for your table. Everyone else, he's grumpy.
Yeah.
Try this. If you're ever in a train, and when the food cart comes, give the guy $100. He'll come and give you double helping, triple helping, free of charge. He'll come and give you biscuits and chocolates. For somebody to take this chocolate. All you given him is $100 before the meal, not after the meal.
Yeah.
So this sudden shift in a mindset, the person starts smiling.
Yeah.
And that lifts everyone's mood. The opposite will drag everyone down.
Yeah.
In anything that we do, I think William Shakespeare said this, that at the end of the day, we are all actors. Life's the play, and we are all actors in it.
Okay.
So you must, as I keep saying, you must be the part to play the part.
Right.
You must be the part to play the part. For instance, and I'll give you a couple of examples. And people say, no, it's not the case. But that is the case. For example, if you're an air hostess, you got to smile at everyone. And even though you don't like that guy who is looking at you or whatever, but you still got to smile at the person. You got to be very bonhomie. You got to be very welcoming. But if you don't smile, that job's not for you. If you're going into the marketing side of a business, you've got to be very talkative. You've got to be, at least have thorough knowledge. If you're trying to sell this road, you've got to know what this is all about. And you've got to talk about it. And you may be a silent, non-talkative person, but when you are in the marketing job, you've got to talk about it. So that's the act you've got to put on. If you're in the army, or if you're a cop, you got to come out with a tough disposition. You cannot be a wimp. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to play the part to be the part. Anything that you do, you can be a driver, but drive properly, dress properly, and then you'll be setting yourself apart from everyone else.
Yeah.
And that'll take you places. Anything you do, you got to at least pretend that you are ahead of everyone else. So pretense is very, very important. I've just given examples of being an air hostess. If you cannot smile, that's not your job. You got to have the ability to dress well and to look pretty and to be, smiley all the time, in case, no matter what happens.
Yeah. So true. So true. You also said that many people, they strive for something, but then halfway through they give up. Why do you think that is? They're not able to make it. And you said a lot of it has to do with your mind, inaptitude.
Well, I think success is mostly mind driven. But what is success? What is success to you may not be what success is to Abhishek and to anyone else.
So true.
But at the end of the day, success to me has a couple of ingredients. Success starts from a thought that I would like to start a podcast. Then you have the next ingredient is desire. I've thought about it. Now I'm going to put it together. I'm going to need so much money to set this studio up.
Yep.
And third thing, which is the most important thing, is the commitment. That in order to do it, I need to put away 3 hours of my time. Now I'm working. I come home at 7 o'clock in the evening. Then I've got my wife and I've got my kids. Then where am I going to find those 3 hours? It'll be typically from 9 to 12 or 9 to 1 o'clock in the morning. Commitment is when 99.9% of the people fail. They falter.
Right.
In the commitment. If you do not commit to something, then you cannot do it. everyone loves money. Everyone wants to get there. And then they'll find excuses of why they couldn't do something. So desire, thought and commitment is that thing. If you can commit yourself to it, then the job will be done.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult. I can assure you that. Whatever you do is going to be difficult. You're going to fall down. So you've got to pick yourself up. As they say, if you fall down 7 times, pick yourself up 8 times. Always pick yourself up.
Yeah.
You know, they say that winners never quit. But on the other hand, a quitter will never win. Once you give up, then it's like someone's chopped off your legs. You will never be able to go back. And that becomes the mental ineptitude I was talking about here. Because that's then screwed you up mentally, that I can't do it. I can't do it. And that's what hampers a lot of people. A lot of people are, so many people I'm sure you would know, who are working in jobs that they do not like. They're living other people's lives in India. It's very, very common. Go and marry that woman, or go and marry that boy, go and become an engineer. But I don't want engineering. Or go and become a doctor. So if you end up getting a degree in something which you hate, will you be good at that? Obviously not.
Yep.
You've done your medical degree, you got your MBBS, but you're hopeless because you don't want it. I want something else. And you cannot break free from the environment you find yourself in this caste-ridden society that we have.
Yep.
You can't break through. So the easiest way to do that is to get out is if you have the guts and say, okay, I want to get out of it. I don't want to live in Goa because in Goa everyone knows me. Then you go away somewhere else, go to Bombay, go to Calcutta, go to Delhi, and there you can make a mark for yourself. But if you have that commitment and if you have the strive and the desire, but as I've said, you're leading other people's lives. How do you break away? It takes courage.
Right. Right. I love what you said, that if you quit, it becomes like a mental block that I have quit at this point and I can't do it.
If you quit, you're done. You're done. Say, let's look at a super athlete. Let's look at anyone, whether it is Djokovic or whether it is any super athlete, that Usain Bolt. These guys work. Their regimen is to work 6 hours, 8 hours every day.
Right.
You work every day. They never sit back and let's say, okay, now I won my gold medal, now let's go and have a beer. You can't drink a beer even after winning a gold medal, because 3 days later you're sitting some other part of the world going to be running another race. So it doesn't work out that way. Here in the Indian context, the cricketers, we are glorified cricketers. The captain of the team will come late. They all come late. Rohit Sharma and all that, they are unfit. Why are they unfit? Because they don't work enough. They don't work it out. And it's acceptable here. But in Usain Bolt, if he was to come late, he will falter in his training. So if you do everything right, the journey is correct, the fruit will come. Because if you cover all the bases, success will come.
Yep.
But we want the success, but we don't want to work for it. So where's the chance of that happening? It may be, your godmother's given you 25 lakhs and you've gone and set up the studio, but you got to work for it.
Right.
And if you work for it and you love it, yes, there will be setbacks. How you pull up your socks and continue, the desire to continue, you're going to fall down.
Yep.
You're going to take hits. So you must get up and continue. And stop blaming the environment and stop blaming karma.
Yes, I just read about this yesterday. As soon as you blame somebody else and take responsibility of yourself, you lose control.
Yeah, but that's the reason. Why didn't you not do that? Oh, mom, oh, dad, or you're telling your wife, or your wife's telling you that I can't do it because of various reasons, and you are convincing yourself why you could not do that. And that's, again, mental ineptitude. It's becoming a block.
So that's what you mean by mental inaptitude,
Yes,
a block.
Yes, total block. And I'm saying that if you come and sit down and break the chips and see why that is the case, you'll find that that's not the case. It's imaginary. It's in your mind. It's imaginary.
That's true.
And in the Indian context, we call it karma. What is karma? Karma is action. Instead of this, if you poured me a glass of whiskey and I drank 3 straight mugs of this, then by the end of the evening, I'll be lisping.
Yep.
That is karma. It's action. Another example is
Or
that
consequence.
consequence. Another example is a student. They should study.
Right.
But if they don't study, then they'll get bad grades. They may pass, but they won't get good grades. If you don't get good grades, then you missed out on certain opportunities. Karma. If you plant a mango tree seed, you're only going to get mango. You're not going to get chiku.
Yep. Yep.
That's karma. Karma is work. But we put it down to rebirth. We put it down to past lives. And we say that, no, I couldn't do the job because it's my past life. What did you do? What did you do? Did you work your ass off? No, you didn't. You're afraid of the unknown. Another very important thing is that, which I find is very, very true, is most people, 99.9% of the people are living in the past. They've got the one foot permanently entrenched in the past. And they're hoping for a good future. How? How will that happen? Future.
What do you mean?
Okay. Future is, we've got past, present and
Future. Yeah.
Now, the past is moving at such a, rapid pace. Before you know it, it's over.
Right.
Before you know it, it's over. So you're in, what is, the future that's going to happen tomorrow is based on today.
Yes. Yeah.
So forget the past. You got to live a life on today, on today's parameters. Forget what's happened. It's almost like the milk is spoiled. It's over. Forget living in the past. You can take notes from that. You can take lessons from that, but subsist on the present, because today is going to be tomorrow, and the past is over.
Yeah.
So today is going to become past tomorrow.
Correct.
So that's what happens. 99% of the people are firmly looking at the past and thinking that why they can't do. That's an excuse.
Do you know of? Can you give us an example of somebody you know who was living in the past, and that's why his present or his future is?
Anyone they can talk of who is leading a miserable life is sitting in the past.
So anyone who lives a
miserable life is living in the past. And you tell them, what are you doing? I can't do this. Why can't you do it? No, it's so difficult. It's in the past. Something is pulling him down and you're making excuses.
Okay. That's true, yeah. Even if I think of people, many people who just are bitter, this experience happened to me in the past, and because of that I'm still carrying that bitterness, and it's a poison.
It's an opportunity. You must take opportunities. Opportunities come all the time. All the time you're getting opportunities. This guy, Richard Branson, who is the chairman of the Virgin Group of Companies from England, had very famously said that life has opportunities all the time. If you don't get one, don't drive yourself crazy.
Right.
Because people say, I'm used to this because 10 years ago I wanted to go to Dubai and I missed that opportunity. My uncle was taking me to Dubai. Where was that 10 years ago? So what have you done in the last 10 years? Because Richard Branson says, and it is very true, opportunity is like a bus. You miss one, forget it. Stand at the bus corner and jump onto the next opportunity bus that comes along.
Yeah.
And ride that to the hilt. As I told you, even if you're a waiter, you do a good job, you could end up becoming a waiter in New York City.
Yeah.
But if you're a sulking waiter, there is nothing in the world that is going to take you to New York City. Nothing in the world.
Yeah.
And everyone has problems. But in the 8 hours that you're in the office, at least smile.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then go back to your miserable life. And with your smile, maybe that miserable life will start getting better. When you start getting more and more money, from your waiting job, things will start to improve. But if you're sulking, where are you going to improve? So all these people in government jobs who are just subsisting, they're not going to make it. But you can. It's very easy. If you start identifying opportunities, if you find yourself in a hellhole, look for an opportunity. Be very observant. You fall into a well, look for an opportunity. How am I going to get out of this shit? And it is possible. Be observant.
Yep.
Observe where you are and try and get out. Observe means being in the present, not in the past. If you're in the past, you cannot observe anything.
That's powerful. Yeah.
And I am saying this with full confidence that if you are in any shit house, observe where you are, put your mind to that and say, I need to get out of this. I need to get out of this. I need to improve myself. I need to improve myself. And you will improve yourself as long as the desire is there.
And I've seen that, as long as you have a desire, somehow you make it.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah,
definitely seen that
I'm definitely there. I mean, I've thrown so many balls up in the air. So one of them will land.
Yeah.
But you cannot let a previous experience, a bad experience, get you down for the rest of your life. That's over. It's gone. But most people do that, and they have the education, they have the degrees. Why do all the if you look at any college, any institute, any university in India,
Right.
as a matter of all over the world, this is apparent for all over the world, all the best performers, the best, I'm talking in studies now, the best students, the top of the line, the top graders. 10 years later, 20 years later, when you look at them, the A grade students are always end up working for B grade students in companies owned by C grade students.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is that? They're that because the C grade student has nothing to lose.
Oh, really?
He's got nothing to lose. He's I'm screwed up here anyway. So I've got to get out and work my ass off.
Okay.
The A grade students, it gets into they become egotistical.
Okay.
So I'm so good. Why are beautiful women so unhappy? Their beauty at the end of the day kicks them in the backside. Because the beauty goes to the head. Marilyn Monroe committed suicide. If you ever walk into a room and there's one beautiful woman, all the men are looking at her. None of them have the guts to go up to her. Because everyone thinks, Arey yaar, I can't go because she's received 1 million proposals to take her out for a coffee. So because of that, no one invites her out for a coffee.
Okay.
If you had the guts to invite her out, she'll probably come with you.
Yeah. I like my grandmom, she used to say, handsome is what handsome does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And it's more about what you do with your whatever you have.
So ego is a very, very bad trait. That'll kill you. Because I am an ego and I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't. I'm a Brahmin, or I'm the Kshatriya, or I'm whatever year I am, and I can't do this. So, or you become very good in studies. I said the pretty girl syndrome or the tough guy syndrome. 8 out of 10 will end up losing it all. And the guy who is a loser becomes a winner because he's working his ass off. In the 60s, Avis car company had come up with this fantastic ad in the late 60s.
Which car company?
Avis car rental.
Avis,
AVIS.
Never heard of that.
Avis, AVIS. And the leader at that time was Hertz, which is still around. Avis is also still around.
Okay.
And
it's a car company.
Rent a car, like they rent a car.
Where? In Bombay?
In America.
Okay.
In America.
The US. Okay.
Came up with this ad. It says, we try harder. So, I mean, look at the Adidas. Just do it. That you want to do something, do it. there is no good time or bad time to do anything. If you want to do it, the best time is right now. If you start saying, no, my sister is going to get married, or this is going to happen, that has happened. If you want to do something, jump in. There will be setbacks, but you have to be willing to take the hits and roll with the punch.
Right.
That's very important. And presence of mind. Presence of mind and taking opportunities is what is going to bail you out of any situation.
I was speaking to someone yesterday, and I really like this person's business acumen. So I asked her, how did you develop it? She's like, all you need to do is put yourself in that tough position, and automatically you will learn it. Put yourself in a tough position, take that step of faith, take that risk, and you will eventually learn it.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. But point is, once you put yourself in the tough situation, there's every chance that you're going to falter.
Yes.
As I said, if you fall down 7 times, you must get yourself up 8 times. Because once you quit, there's no chance of you ever coming back. I could have quit in Iran. I would have got. I would have come back with my legs chopped off. I mean, it
mentally would have.
Yeah. And then lots of people like that. And then you're on the. Then you got a huge mountain to climb. You can do it, as I said. You can do it slowly.
What would you say on the role of mentors? Because there's another line I read which said you either learn in 2 ways. One is you either learn by mistakes or you learn from mentors. What would you say about that?
Both. Learning from mistakes is a very good thing. It's as long as you don't repeat the mistake, as I mentioned earlier. Because mistakes, amounts to experience and then to wisdom. But wisdom will only come if you don't keep repeating the mistake.
Yeah.
As I say, what is the sign of insanity? The sign of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. The reason you're not getting a different result is because you're not hitting the right button. If you know by hitting this button it's not going to work, and you keep hitting that button, it's not going to work.
Yep. So true.
So the ability to pick yourself up, because you're going to get hit, and you have to be able to sustain that.
Yeah.
So there will be physical, there could be mental. So you got to write it out.
Yeah.
So the people fall because of they're not mentally tough, and they make excuses.
So what would you say are some of the remedies for mental inaptitude? Now suppose someone has gone through a situation where they have quit, okay, where they have felt like, oh man, I can't do it. How do you get out of that? Because it's quite tough.
Well, you'll have to come to someone like me, and I'll have to talk to them, try and break it down. Why did you give up?
Right.
And start putting the shattered pieces together to build up the confidence. It's all about confidence. They're shattered. It's like a glass which is shattered. Now I have to piece it back together. So I have to tell them, actually what you're thinking is actually not true. Get out there and do it. See, the problem is manifold. If I don't want to do something, it's fine. I'm telling someone that why don't you get out and do it? Isn't it? But I don't want to do it. I'm quite content with having 1 cup of tea a day or 1 meal a day. Who are you to tell me I need to have 3 meals? I said, fine, that's your problem. But I think you're doing a huge injustice. If you want to have 1 meal a day, it's fine. But if you're forcing your wife and your kids to have 1 meal a day, I think that's where the problem arises. You don't want to go to work. You want to cut short your work hours and come back at 4 o'clock every day. You're not allowing your wife to work. So and you forcing your children, your wife and entire family into penury. I think that's wrong. If you got them, you got married, you produced the kids, you damn well do something about it.
So true. Now, you wrote this brilliant book, and I love the way you tell your life story, and it's quite blunt. It's a brilliant book. tell me, what was the idea behind writing that book? And it's very important that you did, but very few people actually do it. Many people have amazing stories, but they don't come out with a book. I love that you have come up with your book. So tell me about it. It's called Rubies in My Ears by Sanjiv Lall. It's available on Amazon. You all should definitely check it out. I have a personal signed copy by you.
Well, actually, over the last 20 odd years or so, every time I spoke to people, both in India and abroad, I was always finding a very strange thing that someone would say, I can't do this, I can't do that. The Indian context was, I was always finding, the parallel was round pegs and square holes, and everyone was a misfit. Either because they're doing things their parents didn't want them to do, or they were doing things the parents did want them to do. And it was always a sense of misfit or unhappiness.
Mm.
And I was trying to understand why. And in my own work, very often I was doing something and I found I did not know what to do. I mean, I'm at a dead end. Now what do? Do I turn right? Do I turn left?
Mm.
So this business of not knowing what to do, in my career, I always found that to be very good and productive, because if you can turn it around, it did well. On the other hand, it could also turn out to be a minefield. So, when I wrote my book, I dedicated to those people who do not know what to do in life.
Mm.
I mean, I started off in, as I told you, in political science. Had I got a job, I would probably ended up getting a job in Calcutta or somewhere or even in Delhi, 1,000 rupees a month or something. And what have I made from that? So I thought I'd share my work experience and whatever I'd done. And over the years, I did so many things wherein I ran into a dead end, not knowing what to do.
Mm.
So I always felt that it's not a bad thing. You go through life not knowing what to do. At every juncture you arrive. I'm doing this podcast. I have never done it before. This is my first podcast actually. So over the first few ones I've done. So there's always going to be a situation where you do not know what to do. But always use it as a stepping stone to something bigger.
Yeah, I like that, because in your book you show how many different types of fields you've worked in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure at all points you would be completely new to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a level of confidence. I remember I was selling SAP software, which is the world's best, most automation software in the world. And that time was in 1998.
Yeah, it's still very popular today.
Yeah, it is. But 1998 it was new. There were very, very few people in India who knew anything about it. And I was selling it from New Zealand, small country New Zealand, selling SAP software. I came to Bombay. I participated in 2 tenders with Reliance and Telco at that time. Telco is now Tata Motors. And I got both those contracts. I mean, it was phenomenal. Phenomenal, absolutely. And I was not an IT background. I was not even an engineer. I was good old political science. But I started talking the language. When you do anything, if you are doing the work of a cameraman, you must look like a cameraman. You can't come out wearing a suit. If you are doing the work of a driver or a worker or a welder, you've got to be the part to play that part. So similarly, when I was selling software, I had to talk the jargon.
Right.
My job as the CEO of the company was to go for business development. That means pull in business. Okay. So I would go and meet all the customers, and the 2 customers we had in India was Reliance Industries, that's Mukesh Ambani and Anil Ambani, they were together at that time, and Tata Motors. So now, because the software was very, in those years, information technology in India was still pretty nascent, those stages. So the CEO of most companies and the chief financial officer, CFO as they call it, were non-techies. There used to be a chief technology officer or chief information officer. Those were the techies. But the CEO and chief financial officer were business people. And I was a business guy. So I could talk to them.
Right.
But I had to shroud that in jargon. that this is what we are offering you, this is what we are offering you. So they accepted it for me.
Why did you have to shroud it in jargon? So that they would identify you as an IT guy.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So when I got the contract, when I started positioning my people in Reliance, they would come to I started traveling like a like you wouldn't believe. Every 6 weeks I was coming to Bombay. Every 6 weeks. 2 weeks in India, 2 weeks in New Zealand, and 2 weeks in United States of America, and back, because US, India, and New Zealand was midway, straddling midway between India and Los Angeles. So for years I was coming to India. They thought that I was a IIT guy, or they thought I had studied abroad. They did not know that I had no technical background.
Okay.
So that is a big, I thought, meritorious, if you like.
Yeah.
I remember going to meet these guys from Reliance, and they were working on software programs, and I was saying, how's it going, boys? They said, no, Sanjiv, we're doing this, we're doing that, come and have a look. And I'm looking at the guy's goddamn,
code.
I'm looking at his monitor, saying, what the hell is he doing? But I had to pretend I knew what he was doing. It was a very good way. So I had a couple of guys who would teach me, and I would go and spit it out. So it was brilliant. And then years later, when I started buying old homes in Goa and started renovating them, people come and ask me, are you an architect? I said, no, but you designed it so well. Oh, then you must be a designer. I said, no, certainly not a designer either. So if you do something with passion,
right,
people assume that with the case, and you do it, you take it forward.
Yeah.
So I became identified as an architect or as a designer for homes. I became known as must be from which IIT are you from? Are you from Bombay? No. If you've not done IIT, then you must be an MBA. So I would just smile. I said, yeah, we'll talk about it later. I could not even tell them that I'm not. Otherwise my contract might have fallen through. So you got to hold it together.
Lovely. Tell us about your stint into renovating homes and stuff like that.
Well, that started when I first came to Goa. I bought a house in Moira,
right,
in 2009.
Yeah,
and it was a good home, and I needed some more modifications done to it because it had a garden shed, and I wanted to build an outdoor office. I didn't want to have my office inside the house, so I had converted the garden shed into an office, which is overlooking the swimming pool. So people would come from the rear side straight to my office. That was working very nicely. So when people came from Bombay and Delhi, and they would say, what a lovely home do you have? Can you help me find a property like this? So I said, I am new in Goa, but if I do find something, I'll let you know. And sure enough, in my travels, I picked up this property and then sold that and made a little money. I said, this is a cakewalk. I should do this more often. So I started selling property on brokerage. And I found to myself that that's okay. But if I'm selling someone else's property, why don't I do my own? It's like selling a car.
Yeah.
No matter the size of the car, if you are selling a Maruti,
right,
or if you're selling a Rolls Royce, I can tell you one thing. The process to sell a Maruti or Rolls Royce is the same. They're going to ask you the same questions.
Yeah.
Only thing, that guy is going to ask you a slightly more, questions about the size of the engine. Maruti also size of the engine. Both guys are going to bring the wife and the mother-in-law and grandmother-in-law to have a look at it. Okay. They're both going to go through rigorous process of purchase. So might as well sell the Rolls Royce and make a bigger commission.
Yeah.
I mean, that's or a Mercedes. That's what I feel. I mean, if you sell a car for 6 lakhs, how much commission are you going to make? But if you sell it for 3 crores, you're going to make damn sight more money.
Yeah.
Theory is the same. So here, but you got to throw yourself into that work passionately.
Right.
You got to learn something about it. At least pick up the jargon, pick up the notes of what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to say. And of course, the product has to look beautiful. So it's the same story here. If a lady is very well coated and very well, with makeup and she looks wonderful, then she can say that she's from that modeling school or she's been there, and she can get into the cosmetic business.
Yep.
But if she can't make herself up properly, where is she going to advertise her wares?
Yeah.
So you got to be your own. You got to be your own signboard. You got to be your own advertisement, if you like, in whatever you do. And if you do it well, then people will believe you.
Yeah. Can you share some stories about mindset? Having the right mindset. You said you were going to share.
Mindset is very important, because as I said, I mean, I fortunately have been in a position where I've done things I wanted to do.
Right.
And I made money. I made a lot of money selling IT. And then, of course, came to Goa, and then I started making good money. In those years, I could buy a home, renovate it, and sell it for 100% profit. I did that also 3-4 times. That's how I wound up with where I am right now in Donapal.
Yeah.
So mindset is something which, to me, is I want to go there, and I'm not going to let anything stop me. And you'll get there. As I said, the desire and the commitment is there. The commitment is the main thing. So, and I feel that don't tie yourself up in the past. If you keep yourself in the present, you will get there. Because past confuses you. Past is what is pulling all these people who have not done anything. They're all entrenched in the past. So just forget it, because it's not doing anything for you. Think of today, because today, and there's a huge mindset change. If you start thinking of today, because if you're thinking of today, from doing nothing at home, write a book, twiddle around, do something, start cooking, get into the beauty business industry or whatever. There's so many things to do. Gardening. A lot can be done, but if you're entrenched in the past, there's nothing you can do, because past is failure. And all you're doing is, and that mindset is going to take you back. So it's mindset which is going to either take you forward or it's going to take you in the reverse gear. You need to go forward.
So direct your mind to the present.
Absolutely.
What about directing your mind to the future?
Future will happen automatically.
But taking care of the present is more important.
No, the most important, because we don't know the future. Today is going to become tomorrow. So today will become the future. So you have to work on the present. You have to work on the present. There is only one tense. It's the present. Past is over, and the present is going to become the future. But if you are entrenched in the past and looking at the future, both are out. Position yourself in the present. Observe. Be observant.
What is when you say observe, what do you mean? Because you've said it before also, but can you elucidate?
Well, wherever you are, if you can see where you are, what you're trying to do, what is about yourself, the ability of what you can do, and try and identify your strong points and your weak points. Observe yourself.
Yep. Know thyself.
And well, that's another way of putting it. And a lot of people say that work in your weak points. I actually say don't do that. Identify your strong points and sharpen your strong points. Forget the weak points. Because everyone has strong points.
Yeah.
And just so you're in the media business. Just concentrate on that and break the media business down into whatever areas that you feel work for you, and whatever drives you, keep hammering away those. Because there's so many, you can't, life's short. You can't carry on being everything to everyone. So I would say concentrate on your good points, forget the negative points. So that's a balance you got to do.
Yeah.
And that comes from observation of yourself.
That's so true. In fact, I was speaking about this before. Very often we are held up by our weaknesses. People say, oh, you're bad at this, this is your problem, that's your problem. And that actually leads to guilt, and guilt leads to poor performance.
Correct. So all you got to do is take out a sheet of paper and write down your strong points in one column, and write out your weak points in another column. And concentrate on the strong points and start hammering away. Everyone has something good about them.
Right.
What is that good thing?
Yeah.
The ability to do something. And you'll find that whether it is your behavioral pattern, or why do some people gravitate to some people and not to others? That's leadership.
Right.
Leadership is not an authority that is shoved down our throats like in a government job. He's your boss from today.
Right.
He may be no one.
Yeah.
But
Positional. That's positional.
Yeah, but very
leadership.
often people at the lower end of the ladder are leaders because everyone is going to them for advice. Why? Because it's choice. I have a choice whether I'm going to go to you or whether I'm going to go to that person. So leadership is not an authority. It can be thrust upon us in the armed forces or wherever. But it's not necessarily always the right way because some people are not leaders at all. Leader is one who's going to show the way, be the first one in, be the set examples. What's the main ingredient of a leader? To inspire, to motivate, to force people to do some things that is well beyond them. And that comes from motivation. So if you look up to someone and that person says that Sanjiv, do this. Oh, I'll do that.
Right. Right.
The biggest ingredient of a leader is inspiration. But if they cannot inspire, then they're not leaders. They just thrust upon you.
Yep. Excellent. So before we wind up, are there some other messages that you want to share for the audience?
Well, what I have found is that everyone is going through drudgery or wherever you are in such a situation. All I would suggest is look at the present. Where are you? And why are you there? Try and analyze why am I here and why has my life come to a grinding halt for the last 10 years? Was that the right decision you took? And you'll probably find that was not the right decision you took. Yeah. How can that be rectified? What has happened has happened. Going forward, what can you do? Can you pull your socks up and do something about it? You probably find the answer is it's right there. There's nothing stopping you from doing it. Maybe you need to start drinking less, and maybe not need to start smoking a little less. But that's always is always possible. The motivation for you to get there, but you must need to get there. Your desire, your requirement, your needs, your wants. That I need to get there, and you'll get there. So, life is short, and that's one of the reasons why I say that don't forget the negatives. Concentrate on your positives, and they will be positive. You just got to identify what they are. Everyone has something good about them.
Yep.
So,
excellent.
Something good about you may not be good. The same thing may be not in the other person. So you can bring it together.
Lovely. Great. So where is the best place people can find you? I see your videos on your Instagram profile. I really like them. You're doing a lot of motivational talks over there. And I love them. I like watching them.
Well, you can talk to me on basically on WhatsApp, on my number,
Okay.
on my email. I'm generally available.
What's your Instagram ID?
It is Rough Trails.
Rough Tales.
Rough Trails.
Rough Trails.
Rough
yes.
_trails.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Because as I said, that I've always, cut it rough. And as I said, that if I can do it, anyone else can do it. And I say that again, if I can do it, anyone else can do it. You just got to have the mindset and the desire and the want to get there. Hits you will take.
Yep.
And I can tell you that you will take the hits. But as Arnold Schwarzenegger said, the actor, that you can never climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pocket. Otherwise you'll fall off the ladder.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So if climb the ladder but hold on to the ladder. Now there is another thing. People say that hedging your bets. Should I put all my eggs into one basket?
Right.
Now there are two arguments about this. But when you're young and when we got nothing else and you're totally zero right now, whether you, regardless of what age you're in, whether you're 30, 40, 50, I would go after what you want, even if it means there's only one basket of eggs. Then you got to make sure that the damn basket of eggs does not break. Now, when you have an alternative, say I'm thinking of doing this podcast, but if the podcast doesn't work, then I'll write a book. If the book doesn't work, then I'll go into becoming a guru in drones. Then you're clouding your mind into negatives. You're already thinking, if that doesn't work, I'm going to go into drones. If that doesn't work, I'm going to go into something else. Don't think of that. Concentrate on the damn objective you have in mind.
Burn your bridges.
Absolutely. Don't give yourself an option, because once you start thinking that if I can't cut it and go, I'm going to go to Bombay. No. You go to Bombay out of your choice, but you're going to make it here. So don't give yourself too many options. That's what I feel.
Lovely. Awesome.
Because your mind will then say, because when you start thinking about that, then I'm trying to do my media, then I'm also going to try and do drones, then I'm also going to try to do that. Then you're cutting down on your time. Spend all the time there where your desire is. If you like things enough, you'll pick it up.
Yeah.
Passion.
Yep.
There are two things. If you have a purpose and if you have passion, both with P, you will make it. Remember that. Anything with purpose and passion, you will make. You marry the two. Anything that you do which is tough, anything which is rough, you're climbing a hill, anything which is bad you're trying to do, you're doing it intentionally. Don't do it accidentally, do it intentionally. I need to go there. I need to sweat it out. Super athletes, boxers, fighters, they're taking body hits.
Yep.
That's intentional. So if you do anything intentionally with passion and purpose, you'll make it. There's no doubt about it. It has to be intentional. No one went running up a hill by accident. You went running up the hill because you wanted to go running up the hill. You're not going to climb Mount Everest just accidentally. Intentional.
Yeah.
Passion, purpose. If you find your passion and if you find your passion, you'll probably find your purpose. And you find your purpose and you add passion to it, the food will become better.
So true. So true. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Sanjiv.
My pleasure.
It was amazing, and I believe a lot more people need to read your book. The book is available on Amazon. It's called Ruby in My Ears by Sanjiv T. Lall. Lovely book. I loved it. And thank you so much for this time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. Let's hope it gets some traction.
Yeah. Well, that was our third special episode of the Creative Genesis podcast. What did you think about it? We'd love to see your comments in the comment section on YouTube. And this podcast is also available as an audio, so you can listen to it on all audio platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, all these. Please subscribe to this channel so that more people will get to know about these amazing speakers. This podcast is also available on our Instagram, creativegenesis.podcast. So check it out there. We would love if you would give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so that more young people get to know about these incredible stories which can help them to change and transform their lives. Well, until next time, this is Ryan Lobo. Stay tuned.